My name is Alex, I'm 24 years old, and this is the story of how my best friend walked in while I was showering, and how that single moment changed both of our lives forever. Looking back now, I can see all the signs I missed. The lingering glances, the excuses to touch my shoulder, the way Jordan's voice would soften when we were alone. But at the time, I was completely oblivious. Or maybe I was just too scared to see what was right in front of me. This is a story about friendship, courage, and discovering that sometimes the person you've been searching for has been beside you all along the water cascaded over my shoulders, washing away the stress of another long day at the architecture firm where I worked as a junior designer. Steam filled the bathroom of the apartment I shared with Jordan Matthews, my best friend since college. We'd been roommates for 3 years now, ever since we both moved to Seattle to chase our respective dreams, mine in architecture, his in software development. I tilted my head back, letting the hot water soak through my dark hair, and closed my eyes. The bathroom was my sanctuary, the one place where I could let my guard down completely, where I didn't have to pretend, didn't have to hide the thoughts that kept me awake at night, thoughts about Jordan. I squeezed my eyes shut tighter, trying to push those feelings away like I always did. Jordan was my best friend, my straight best friend. It didn't matter that my heart did this annoying flutter thing every time he laughed at one of my terrible jokes, or that I found myself watching the way his hands moved when he was coding, fingers flying across the keyboard with graceful precision. It didn't matter because it couldn't matter. I reached for the shampoo, massaging it into my scalp with perhaps more force than necessary, as if I could scrub away the confusion along with the day's grime. The jasmine scent filled the steamy air. Jordan had bought it for me last month after I mentioned liking the smell. Such a small gesture, but I'd read way too much into it. Lying awake that night wondering if it meant something. Spoiler alert, it probably didn't. I get it together. Alex, I muttered to myself, rinsing the suds from my hair. That's when I heard at the bathroom door opening. My eyes snapped open, soap stinging them immediately. Through the frosted glass shower door, I could make out a blurry figure entering the bathroom. Jordan, I called out, hastily wiping soap from my eyes with wet hands. I'm in here. I know, came his voice, quieter than usual. There was something different in his tone, something I couldn't quite identify. Nervousness? Determination. Alex, we need to talk. My heart started racing, and not just from the shock of being interrupted. We need to talk. Those 4 words that never led anywhere good. Can it wait until I'm, not naked? I tried to keep my voice light, casual, even as my mind spiraled through possibilities. Had he figured it out? Did he know about my feelings? Was he about to tell me he was moving out, that things had gotten too weird? No, Jordan said, and I heard him lean against the bathroom counter. It can't wait. I've been trying to say this for months, and if I don't do it now, I'm afraid I never will. The water continued to pour over me, but I'd gone completely still. My pulse thundered in my ears, louder than the shower. Jordan, what's going on? You're kind of freaking me out here. There's a long pause. Through the frosted glass, I watched his blurry form shift, as if he was gathering courage. Do you remember that night last spring? He began, his voice barely audible over the water. When we stayed up until 3 a.m. talking about what we wanted out of life, I did remember we'd been slightly drunk on cheap wine, sitting on our tiny balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. Jordan had talked about his dream of creating software that actually helped people, not just generated profit for corporations. I'd shared my vision of designing affordable housing that didn't sacrifice beauty for practicality. Yeah, I said carefully. I remember. You said something that night that stuck with me. You said you wanted to be with someone who saw you really, saw you not just the version of yourself you show the world. He paused, and I realized that I see you, Alex. I've always seen you. My breath caught. The water suddenly felt too hot, the steam too thick. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't real, Jordan. Let me finish, please. His voice cracked slightly. I've spent the last 6 months trying to figure out how to tell you this. I've practiced this conversation 100 times in my head, and it never comes out right. But standing here, knowing you're right there, he took a shaky breath. I can't keep pretending anymore. Pretending what? I whispered, though part of me already knew. Part of me had always known, buried deep beneath layers of self-protection and fear, is that I don't have feelings for you. That I haven't been in love with my best friend for the better part of 2 years. The world tilted. I reached out blindly, pressing my palm against the cool tile wall to steady myself. The water continued its relentless cascade, but I barely felt it anymore. Everything had narrowed down to this moment, this confession, this impossible reality. I couldn't finish the sentence. My thoughts were a jumbled mess. I'm bi, Jordan said, his voice stronger now, as if saying it out loud gave him power. I've known for a while, but I was scared. Scared of what it meant, scared of what people would think, scared of losing you if I told you how I felt. My family, they wouldn't understand. But I can't keep living like this, Alex. I can't keep watching you date other guys and wondering what if. I needed you to know. Silence fell between us, broken only by the steady drum of water. My mind raced, trying to process everything. Jordan had just told me he was bisexual, that he had feelings for me, that he'd been hiding this for 2 years, 2 years of missed opportunities, 2 years of silent longing on both sides. I turned off the water with a shaking hand. The sudden silence was deafening. Can you hand me a towel? I managed to ask. I heard him move, and then a towel appeared over the top of the shower door. I took it, wrapping it around my waist, my heart hammering so hard I was certain he could hear it. Every nerve in my body felt alive, electric, taking a deep breath. I opened the shower door. Jordan stood there, his hazel eyes wide and vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. He was wearing his favorite gray hoodie and jeans, his light brown hair slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it nervously. He looked terrified and hopeful and beautiful, and I wondered how I'd ever convinced myself I could ignore what I felt for him. Jordan, I started, then stopped. What were the right words? How did you tell someone that they'd just handed you everything you'd been too afraid to wish for? You don't have to say anything, he said quickly, taking a step back. If you don't feel the same way, we can forget this ever happened. I just needed you to know the truth. I needed to stop hiding. Stop, I said softly. Just stop talking for a second. Fell silent. Watching me with those expressive eyes that had always been able to read my moods better than anyone else's, I took a step closer, acutely aware that I was standing there in nothing but a towel, water still dripping from my hair in what had to be the most vulnerable position possible. But maybe that was appropriate. Maybe this moment called for complete vulnerability. Do you remember what I told you that same night? I asked, after you shared your dreams. He shook his head slightly, uncertainty flickering across his features. I said that I was tired of being afraid, that I was tired of hiding parts of myself because I was worried about what other people would think. I took another step closer. But the truth is, I've been hiding ever since, especially from you. Alex, I've had feelings for you for over a year, Jordan. Maybe longer. I've been trying so hard to bury them, to convince myself that what I felt was just friendship, that I was reading too much into every little moment between us. My voice grew stronger, because I thought you were straight, because I thought telling you would ruin everything we had. The expression on Jordan's face shifted from fear to wonder, his eyes widening. You have feelings for me? How could I not? The words came easier now, like a dam finally breaking. You're brilliant and kind and funny. You remember how I like my coffee? You buy me shampoo because I mentioned liking the scent? You make me laugh when I'm stressed, and you call me out when I'm being stubborn. You're my best friend, Jordan, but you're also so much more than that. You're the person I think about first thing in the morning and the last thing before I fall asleep. Jordan's breath hitched. We were standing close now, close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his hazel eyes, could feel the warmth radiating from his body. I can't believe this is real, he whispered. I've imagined telling you so many times, but in my head, it never went like this. How did it go in your head? A small, self-deprecating smile crossed his face. Usually with you letting me down gently and then things being awkward forever. I couldn't help but laugh, the sound releasing some of the tension coiled in my chest. Well, for someone who's supposed to be good at coding and logic, that was a pretty terrible prediction. Apparently I'm better at debugging software than reading romantic signals, he admitted, his own smile growing. We stood there, grinning at each other like idiots. And suddenly, the absurdity of the situation hit me. Here we were, having the most important conversation of our friendship, and I was dripping wet in a towel in our steamy bathroom. This is probably the weirdest setting for a love confession, I said. Yeah, Jordan agreed, his eyes sparkling with humor and something deeper, warmer. But somehow it feels perfect. No pretense, no performance. Just us. Just us, I echoed softly. The air between us felt charged, alive with possibility. Jordan's gaze dropped to my lips for just a fraction of a second before returning to my eyes. It was such a small gesture, but it sent heat spiraling through my entire body. Alex, he said, his voice low and uncertain. Can I? Would it be okay if I kissed you? My heart soared. Even now, even after everything we'd just confessed, he was still asking permission, still being respectful and careful with my feelings. It was so quintessentially Jordan that I fell a little bit more in love with him right there. I've been waiting for you to ask that for a very long time, I replied. Jordan stepped closer, closing the remaining distance between us. His hand came up slowly, cupping my cheek with a gentleness that made my breath catch. His thumb traced along my cheekbone, and I leaned into the touch. My eyes fluttering closed for a moment. When I opened them again, Jordan was gazing at me with such open affection that it made my chest ache. I'm going to remember this moment for the rest of my life, he murmured. Then let's make it worth remembering, I whispered back. He leaned in, and time seemed to slow. I could count each heartbeat, feel each breath. And then his lips met mine, soft and tentative and perfect. The kiss started gentle, almost careful, as if we were both afraid of breaking whatever spell had fallen over us. But then Jordan's other hand slid into my still damp hair, and I pressed closer, my hands finding their way to his waist. Feeling the fabric of his hoodie beneath my fingers, the kiss deepened. Weeks and months of longing pouring into this single point of connection. Jordan tasted like mint tea and possibility, and I wanted to memorize everything about this moment, the way he made a small sound in the back of his throat, the way his fingers tightened slightly in my hair, the way his body fit perfectly against mine. When we finally pulled apart, both breathing heavily, Jordan rested his forehead against mine. Wow, he breathed. Yeah, I agreed, unable to form more coherent words. Wow. We stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, steam still curling around us from the shower I'd abandoned. Everything felt surreal and wonderful and terrifying all at once. So, Jordan said after a moment, his voice carrying a hint of nervous humor, this means we're doing this? You and me? I pulled back just enough to look into his eyes. Do you want to? More than anything, he said with such conviction that it made my heart stutter. But I want to do it right, Alex. No hiding, no pretending. We're just roommates when we're around other people. I want to actually date you. Take you to dinner, hold your hand in public, introduce you as my boyfriend. He paused, a hint of vulnerability creeping back in. If that's what you want to, boyfriend. The word sent a thrill through me. That's exactly what I want, I assured him. Though we should probably tell people we're dating before one of them walks in on us making out in the kitchen. Jordan laughed, the sound bright and unburdened. Fair point. Should we tell Tyler first? He's going to claim he knew all along. Tyler was Jordan's coworker and our mutual friend. Notorious for his supposedly accurate gaydar and his love of playing matchmaker. God. He's going to be insufferable, I groaned. But I was smiling. Completely insufferable, Jordan agreed. But also probably right. He's been making comments for months about how we should just kiss already. Maybe we should have listened to him sooner, I said. Maybe. Jordan's expression grew more serious. Though I think we both needed time to figure things out. I needed to come to terms with my sexuality, and you needed to. Well, I don't know what you needed. I needed to stop being so scared, I admitted. Scared of rejection. Scared of losing my best friend. Scared of wanting something I didn't think I could have. Jordan's hand found mine, our fingers intertwining naturally. You never have to be scared with me, Alex. Not about this. I know that now, I said. Though I have to admit, the timing of your confession was unexpected. He had the grace to look sheepish. Yeah, I probably should have waited until you were dressed. But I'd been standing outside this apartment for 20 minutes, trying to work up the courage to come inside and talk to you. When I finally did, I heard the shower running, and something just clicked. I thought if I waited, I'd lose my nerve again. Well, I'm glad you didn't wait, I told him. Even if it means we'll forever have that time you confessed your feelings while I was naked in the shower as our origin story. It's certainly memorable, Jordan said with a grin. I glanced down at myself, suddenly remembering my state of undress. Speaking of which, I should probably put some actual clothes on. Unless you want to continue this conversation while I'm wrapped in a towel. As much as I'm enjoying the view, Jordan teased, his cheeks flushing slightly, you should probably get dressed. I'll order us some dinner. Thai food? Perfect. 20 minutes later. I emerged from my bedroom dressed in comfortable sweats and a t-shirt, my hair still damp but no longer dripping. The smell of Thai food wafted through our apartment, and I found Jordan in the kitchen. Setting out containers of pad thai and curry on our small dining table, he looked up when I entered, and the smile that spread across his face was different, now warmer, more intimate, meant just for me. It made butterflies erupt in my stomach. Feel better? He asked. Much better, I confirmed, taking my usual seat across from him. Except as I sat down, Jordan reached across the table and took my hand. Is this okay? He asked softly. I threaded my fingers through his, marveling at how natural it felt. More than okay. We ate dinner with our free hands, neither of us willing to let go of the other, talking about everything and nothing. But beneath the casual conversation about work and weekend plans, there was an undercurrent of adjustment, of figuring out how to navigate this new dimension of our relationship. Can I ask you something? I said as we finished eating. Anything? When did you know? About your feelings for me, I mean. Jordan leaned back in his chair, his thumb absently stroking the back of my hand. There wasn't really one moment. It was more like a gradual realization. But there was this night about 2 years ago. Remember when you got passed over for that promotion at work? I nodded. I'd been devastated, convinced that my boss had given the position to someone less qualified because of office politics. You came home that night so defeated, Jordan continued, and we stayed up talking about it. You told me about all your doubts, your fears that you weren't good enough, that maybe you'd made a mistake moving to Seattle. And I remember sitting there, listening to you, and thinking that I would do anything to make you feel better, that your happiness mattered more to me than my own. He paused, his eyes distant with memory. And then you fell asleep on the couch, and I put a blanket over you, and I just looked at you, really looked at you, and I thought, oh, this is what love feels like. He met my gaze again. It terrified me. I'd only ever been with women before. I'd never questioned my sexuality. But there it was, undeniable. My throat felt tight with emotion. What did you do? Panicked, mostly, he admitted with a rueful smile. Spent the next few weeks trying to convince myself it was just intense friendship. Dated a few women, thinking if I just tried harder, these feelings would go away. But they never did. If anything, they got stronger. I had no idea, I said quietly. You hid it so well. I had a lot of practice hiding things from my family, Jordan said, and there was a note of old pain in his voice. Growing up in a conservative household teaches you to be good at concealment. I squeezed his hand. Have you? Have you come out to them? About being bi? He shook his head. No, you're actually the first person I've told. Well, you and Tyler needed to talk to someone about it, and he's always been so open about being gay. He helped me understand that what I was feeling was valid, that sexuality is fluid. Tyler knew before I did. I asked, slightly incredulous. Only about my sexuality, not about my feelings for you, Jordan clarified quickly. I kept that part to myself. I was too afraid of it getting back to you somehow. I thought about my own journey. The years of knowing I was gay but being too scared to fully embrace it, The careful coming out process with friends and family. When did you know about me? That I'm gay? You told me, remember? About 6 months after we became roommates, we'd been drinking, and you mentioned that your ex-boyfriend had called. Oh God, I'd forgotten about that, I groaned. I was so nervous about how you'd react. You were. Jordan looked surprised. You seemed so casual about it. It was entirely an act. I was terrified you'd want to move out. Alex, come on. You know me better than that. I do now, I said. But back then, we were still getting to know each other. And you'd mentioned your family being religious, and I didn't know. Jordan stood up, pulling me to my feet and wrapping his arms around me. I melted into the embrace, resting my head against his shoulder. I'm sorry you felt scared, he murmured into my hair. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you about myself sooner. We could have had so much more time together. We have time now, I reminded him, tilting my head up to look at him. That's what matters. He smiled and kissed me softly. It was still new enough that my heart raced, still unreal enough that part of me worried I'd wake up and find it was all a dream. Want to watch a movie? Jordan asked when we pulled apart. Sure, your pick. We settled on the couch our worn. Comfortable couch where we'd spent countless evenings watching movies and shows together. But tonight was different. Tonight, Jordan pulled me against his side, his arm around my shoulders, and I curled into him naturally. The movie played, but I couldn't focus on it. I was too aware of Jordan's warmth, the steady rise and fall of his chest, the way his fingers traced absent patterns on my arm. Every so often, he'd press a kiss to the top of my head, and I'd feel the smile on his lips. This is nice, I murmured during a quiet scene. It is, Jordan agreed. I've wanted to do this for so long. Just hold me while we watch TV. Just be close to you like this. Without having to maintain a careful distance, without overthinking every touch. I understood completely. How many times had we sat on this couch together, both of us trying to ignore the electricity that sparked when our hands brushed? How many times had I convinced myself that the tension I felt was one-sided? I was so stupid, I said. All those signs I missed. We both were, Jordan countered. I spent 2 years convinced you only saw me as a friend. What made you finally decide to say something? Jordan was quiet for a moment. Last week, when you went on that date with Marcus, I remembered. Marcus had been a nice guy I'd met through a dating app and accountant, with a good sense of humor. We'd gone out for coffee, and it had been pleasant but unmemorable. There'd been no spark, no connection. You came home and told me about it, Jordan continued, his voice careful. You said he was nice, but that you didn't think you'd see him again. And I felt this relief that was way too intense for just a friend. That's when I knew I couldn't keep lying to myself. Or to you. For the record, I said, I spent that entire date wishing I was with you instead. Jordan's arms tightened around me. Really? Really. We went to that coffee shop on Pike Street, you know, the one with the good lattes, and all I could think was that you'd enjoy their new seasonal drink. Marcus was telling me about his work, and I kept mentally comparing him to you. He didn't make me laugh the way you do. He didn't get my weird references. By the end of the date, I'd pretty much accepted that I was completely screwed because I'd fallen for my supposedly straight best friend. I guess we were both screwed, Jordan said with a soft laugh. But in the best possible way. We fell into comfortable silence, the movie continuing to play unwatched. There was something profound about this moment, the ease of it, the rightness. This wasn't just the excitement of a new relationship. It was the deepening of something that had always been there, a connection that had existed long before either of us had been brave enough to name it. Hey, Alex, Jordan said after a while. Yeah, I know we're taking things slow and figuring this out, but would you want to sleep in my room tonight? Just to sleep, he added quickly. Just want to hold you. My heart melted. Love that. That night, lying in Jordan's bed with his arms around me and his breath warm against the back of my neck, I felt a peace I'd never experienced before. Every piece of my life had been leading to this moment. This person, this feeling of coming home. Thank you, I whispered into the darkness. For what? Jordan murmured sleepily. For being brave enough to tell me. For taking the risk. His arms tightened around me. Best risk I ever took. I drifted off to sleep with a smile on my face, safe and loved, and exactly where I was meant to be. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through Jordan's window and the unfamiliar feeling of someone's arm draped over my waist. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't place where I was, and memory flooded back, and I turned carefully. To find Jordan still asleep beside me, his face peaceful and younger looking in the morning light. I took a moment just to look at him, to absorb the reality that this was real, that I was allowed to be here, to feel this way. Jordan's hair was mussed, falling across his forehead, and I gently brushed it back. His eyes fluttered open at the touch. "Morning," he mumbled, his voice rough with sleep. "Morning," I replied softly. A slow smile spread across his face. "This is real, right? Last night actually happened. It actually happened." Good, he pulled me closer, nuzzling into my neck. Because I'd hate for that to have been just a dream. We lay there for a while, tangled together, neither of us wanting to start the day and break the spell of this perfect morning. But eventually reality intruded in the form of Jordan's alarm going off. "Work," he groaned. "Why do we have jobs?" "Because we enjoy eating and having a roof over our heads," I reminded him, reaching across him to silence the alarm. "Overrated," Jordan declared, but he was already sitting up stretching. I admired the way his t-shirt rode up slightly, revealing a strip of skin. He caught me looking and grinned. "See something you like?" "Maybe," I said, trying to sound casual, even as I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Jordan leaned over and kissed me, morning breath and all, and somehow it was perfect anyway. "Breakfast," he offered. "I'll make coffee if you handle food." We fell into our usual morning routine, except now there were casual touches as we moved around the kitchen. Jordan's hand on my lower back as he reached past me for the bread. My fingers brushing his shoulder as I passed him his coffee. Small moments that meant everything. Oh. "So," Jordan said as we sat down with toast and eggs, "are you free for dinner tonight?" "With my roommate?" I teased. "I suppose I could check my schedule. I'm asking you on a proper date, Alex," Jordan said, his expression earnest. "Restaurant, flowers if you want them, the whole traditional thing." My heart swelled. "I don't need flowers, but yes, I'd love to go to dinner with you." "Great. I'll make reservations somewhere nice." He paused. "And this weekend, if you're okay?" "With it, I'd like to tell Tyler and maybe a few other people. Start making this official." "I'm more than okay with that," I assured him, the smile Jordan gave me could have powered the whole city. Work that day was a surreal experience. I sat at my desk, supposedly reviewing building plans, but my mind kept drifting back to Jordan. To the way he'd kissed me goodbye that morning, promising to pick me up at 7. To the fact that I had a boyfriend, and not just any boyfriend, but the person who knew me better than anyone else in the world. My phone buzzed with a text. "Jordan, can't concentrate. Keep thinking about you." I grinned at my screen. "Me. Same. My boss is going to notice. I've been staring at the same blueprint for 20 minutes. Jordan, worth it though?" "Me. Absolutely worth it." At lunch, I found myself calling my sister Rachel. We'd always been close, and she'd been my biggest supporter when I came out to our family 5 years ago. "Hey, stranger," she answered. "What's up? Can you talk for a few minutes? For my favorite brother?" "Always. Though technically you're my only brother, so the competition isn't steep." I laughed. Rachel's humor was one of my favorite things about her. "I have news." "Oh, good news or bad news?" "Good news. Really good news." I took a breath. "I'm seeing someone." "It's great, Alex. Who is he?" "Where did you meet?" "Well, that's the thing. You already know him. It's Jordan." There was a pause, and then Rachel squealed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. I knew I knew there was something between you two. "Mom and I have been saying for years that you were perfect." "For each other?" "Wait, you and Mom talked about this?" "Alex, everyone could see it except you two. The way you talk about him, the way he looks at you when you're not paying attention. We were just waiting for one of you to figure it out." I felt oddly validated and embarrassed at the same time. It just happened yesterday. He told me how he felt, and it turns out we've both been hiding our feelings for ages. That's so romantic. I'm so happy for you, Alex. Jordan is wonderful. He's kind and smart, and he obviously adores you. I adore him too, I admitted, and saying it out loud made it feel even more real. "I really think this could be something special, Wretch." "I know it will be," she said with confidence. "You two have already built something special as friends. Now you just get to add all the good romantic stuff to it." We talked for a while longer, Rachel asking questions about how it happened. Gave her a slightly edited version of the shower story and offering her enthusiastic support. By the time I hung up, I felt even more certain that Jordan and I were making the right choice. That evening, Jordan picked me up, which was absurd given that we lived in the same apartment, but he insisted on doing it properly. He'd changed into dark jeans and a button-down shirt that made his eyes look more green than brown, and he held out a single sunflower. "I know you said no flowers," he said, a bit shyly, "but sunflowers are your favorite, and I wanted to mark the occasion." I took the flower, my chest tight with emotion. "It's perfect." "You're perfect." "Far from perfect," Jordan said, "but I'm glad you think so." He took my hand as we walked to his car, and the simple gesture felt monumental. We were doing this. We were really doing this. Jordan had made reservations at a cozy Italian restaurant downtown. It's a kind of place with candlelit tables and soft jazz playing in the background. It was intimate and romantic. I loved that he'd put thought into choosing somewhere special. Over pasta and wine, we talked about everything, our hopes for the future, our fears, the logistics of being roommates who were also dating. "Do you think it'll be weird?" I asked. "Living together while we're figuring out the relationship?" Jordan considered this. "Maybe sometimes. But I also think it's an advantage. We already know each other's habits, our quirks. We've seen each other at our worst and our best. There won't be any surprises." "Except the good kind," I added. "Except the good kind." He agreed with a smile as the evening wore on. I realized something profound. Dating Jordan didn't feel like starting something new. It felt like continuing something that had always existed, just with a different label. The ease was still there. The comfort, the ability to make each other laugh. We had just added layers of affection and intimacy that had always been simmering beneath the surface. "What are you thinking?" Jordan asked, catching me with a distant expression. "That I'm the luckiest person alive," I told him honestly. His eyes softened. "I'm pretty sure I hold that title." After dinner, we walked through the city, hand in hand, talking and laughing under the streetlights. When we passed other couples, I felt a surge of pride and joy. This was my person. I got to be with him, openly and without hiding. "Thank you for tonight," I said as we finally headed back to the car. "For making it so special." "Thank you for saying yes," Jordan replied. "To all of it. To taking this chance with me." Back at our apartment, we lingered in the doorway of Jordan's room, neither of us quite ready for the night to end. "Stay again?" Jordan asked softly. "I don't think you'll be able to get rid of me," I admitted. We fell asleep tangled together once more, and I had never felt more content. More hopeful about the future, the next few weeks were a blur of happiness, punctuated by the occasional challenge of figuring out how to navigate our new reality. We told Tyler first, who reacted exactly as predicted with an insufferable "I told you so," followed by genuine joy for both of us. He insisted on taking us out for celebratory drinks, where he regaled us with stories of all the times he'd noticed the tension between us. "That time at my birthday party when you spent the entire night talking in the corner," Tyler said, gesturing with his beer. "I literally told my partner that you two would be together within the year." "That was 2 years ago," Jordan pointed out. "I overestimated how quickly you'd pull your heads out of your wee, get it?" "Tyler," I interrupted, laughing, but as teasing aside. Tyler's acceptance meant a lot. As one of Jordan's closest friends and someone who was openly gay, his support felt like a stamp of approval. Telling others was easier after that. Our friend group from college was universally supportive, several people expressing that they'd suspected there was something between us. My continued 10/18 am family, as Rachel had predicted, was thrilled. My mom even sent Jordan a care package filled with his favorite snacks and a card, welcoming him officially to the family. The only real challenge was Jordan's family one evening. About 3 weeks into our relationship, I found Jordan sitting on our balcony, staring out at the city lights with an expression I'd come to recognize as troubled. "Hey," I said softly, sitting beside him. What's on your mind? He was quiet for a moment, then sighed. My mom called today. She wants me to come home for Thanksgiving. And I don't know how to tell her about us. About me. He turned to look at me, and I saw the conflict in his eyes. I want Alex. I want to bring you home and introduce you as my boyfriend. But my parents, they have very specific views on relationships, on what's acceptable. I took his hand, threading our fingers together. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. If you want to tell them, I'll be right there with you. If you're not ready, that's okay too. There's no timeline on coming out. But I don't want to hide you, Jordan said fiercely. I don't want to pretend we're just friends or roommates. You're the most important person in my life. You're the most important person in mine, I assured him. But Jordan, this is your journey. Your relationship with your family. I won't pressure you to come out before you're ready. He pulled me into a tight hug. How did I get so lucky to find you? Pretty sure walking in on me in the shower was just good timing, I joked, and was rewarded with his laugh. Over the next few days, Jordan wrestled with his decision. I watched him draft and delete texts to his parents. Saw him pace the apartment while on calls with his younger sister. Witnessed his internal struggle between his desire to live authentically and his fear of disappointing his family. Finally, one Sunday morning, he came to me with determination written across his face. I'm going to tell them, he said. Not in person A. Don't think I'm ready for that yet, but I'm going to call my parents today and tell them I'm bisexual and that I'm in a relationship with you. Are you sure? I asked. I'm terrified, he admitted. But I'm sure. Because I love you, Alex, and I want to build a life with you. And I can't do that while hiding who I am from my family. My heart stuttered at the casual way he'd said I love you. We'd been dancing around those words for weeks. But this was the first time either of us had said them outright. I love you too, I said, pulling him close. So much. And I'm so proud of you. Will you stay while I make the call? He asked. I need your strength. Always. We sat together on the couch, Jordan's phone in his hand. He took several deep breaths before finally dialing his parents' number. I held his free hand, offering silent support. His mother answered. Jordan made small talk for a few minutes before saying, Mom, there's something I need to tell you. Is Dad there too? I'd like to talk to both of you. I watched Jordan's face as he waited. Saw the moment his father joined the call. So, I need to tell you both something important, Jordan began, his voice stronger than I'd expected. I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to say this, and I've realized there's no perfect way. I'm bisexual. I'm attracted to people regardless of their gender. I'm currently in a relationship with someone who means everything to me. There was silence on the other end of the line. Jordan's hand tightened around mine. His name is Alex. He's been my best friend and roommate for 3 years. He's the kindest, most talented, most wonderful person I've ever met. We've been together for about a month now, and I'm happier than I've ever been. More silence. I could see the tension in Jordan's shoulders, the way his jaw was clenched. Then, finally, his mother spoke. I couldn't hear her words, but I could hear the tone, confused perhaps, but not angry. Not yet, anyway. Jordan spent the next 20 minutes talking to his parents, answering their questions, explaining his journey of self-discovery. I heard him push back gently when his father made comments about it being just a phase, heard him stand firm when his mother suggested he was just confused. This isn't something that's going to change. Jordan said with quiet conviction, I know who I am, and I know how I feel about Alex. I understand if you need time to process this. But I hope that eventually you'll be able to accept this part of me. Accept us. The call ended with uncertain goodbyes and promises to talk more later. When Jordan hung up, he looked emotionally exhausted.
Ow.
I asked gently. Like I just ran a marathon, he said. But also lighter? Like I've been carrying this weight around and finally put it down? I'm so proud of you, I told him, cupping his face in my hands. That took incredible courage. They weren't thrilled, Jordan said. But they didn't disown me either. Mom seemed more confused than anything. Dad was? Well, Dad. But they didn't hang up, and they said they wanted to keep talking. That's something. That's a lot, I agreed. And they might come around. People often need time to adjust to new information, especially when it challenges their worldview. Jordan pulled me into his lap, wrapping his arms around me. Whatever happens with them, I don't regret it. Because you're worth it, Alex. This is worth it. I kissed him softly, pouring all my love and support into the gesture. We'll figure it out together. Thanksgiving arrived, bringing with it Jordan's decision to visit his parents alone. It wasn't an easy choice, but we both agreed it was the right one. His family needed time to process without the added pressure of meeting me. I'll miss you, I said as I helped him pack. I'll miss you too. But it's only for days. He pulled me close. Besides, this way you can have a drama-free Thanksgiving with your family. My family would love to have you, you know. Mom asked about you at least 5 times when I talked to her yesterday. Jordan smiled. Next year I'll come to your family's Thanksgiving as your official boyfriend. I'm going to hold you to that. The days Jordan was gone felt longer than they should have. We texted constantly, and he called me each night to fill me in on how things were going. His parents were trying, he reported, though it was clearly difficult for them. His mother asked tentative questions about me and our relationship, while his father remained largely silent on the topic. But they're not shutting me out, Jordan said on the 3rd night. My sister has been amazing. She's actually been defending me to our parents, explaining that being bi is perfectly valid. I think having her as an ally is helping. I'm glad you have support there, I told him. I too. But I'm counting down the hours until I can come home to you. When Jordan finally returned, I met him at the door and pulled him into a fierce hug. Miss me? He asked with a laugh. Desperately, I confirmed. Never leave me for 4 whole days again. Deal. Now tell me all about your Thanksgiving. Did your nephew ask you any more questions about having a boyfriend? I laughed, remembering my 5-year-old nephew's innocent curiosity. Oh yes. He wanted to know if you play video games and if you like dinosaurs. Because apparently those are the most important qualifications for being in the family.
Ow.
I do play video games, and dinosaurs are pretty cool. So I think I'm qualified. We spent the rest of the evening curled up together, sharing stories and simply enjoying being in the same space again. It was in moments like these that I was struck by how naturally we'd transitioned from best friends to partners. There was no awkwardness, no struggling to find our rhythm. We just fit. December arrived with a flurry of holiday preparations and end-of-year deadlines at work. Jordan and I fell into comfortable patterns morning coffee together before work, texting throughout the day, cooking dinner side by side in the evenings, falling asleep in each other's arms at night. We had our first real argument on a Saturday afternoon. A disagreement about whether to spend Christmas with my family or alone in our apartment. It wasn't a huge fight, but it was heated enough that we both said things we regretted. I just want you to myself sometimes, Jordan said, frustration clear in his voice. I love your family, but we're always surrounded by people. I want time where it's just us. And I want to share the holidays with you, I countered. My family is your family now, Jordan. They want you there. We stood on opposite sides of the living room, both of us stubborn, both of us hurt. Then Jordan sighed and ran a hand through his hair. This is our first fight as a couple, he said. Yeah, can we agree it's not about Christmas? Not really. I thought about it, then nodded slowly. You're right. It's about finding balance. Between our relationship and everyone else, between us time and family time. Exactly. Jordan crossed the room and took my hands. I'm sorry I got defensive. And I'm sorry I made it sound like I don't want to be with your family. I do. They're wonderful. I'm sorry too, I said. I should have been more considerate of your need for alone time with me. That's important too. We stood there for a moment, and then Jordan smiled ruefully. So this is what it's like to fight and make up with your boyfriend, apparently. Though I have to say, making up is much nicer than fighting. We could make up more thoroughly, Jordan suggested, his smile turning playful. I laughed and pulled him close. I like the way you think. But in the end, we compromised. Christmas Eve with my family, Christmas Day just the 2 of us. It felt like a small victory, but also an important one. We were learning how to navigate conflict, how to communicate our needs, how to build a relationship that honored both of us. Christmas morning dawned clear and cold. Frost decorating our windows in intricate patterns. I woke to find Jordan already awake, watching me with a soft expression. "Merry Christmas," he murmured. "Merry Christmas," I replied, stretching. "What time is it?" "Early," but I couldn't sleep. "I kept thinking about your present," perked up. "Oh, should I be worried?" "Only if you don't like it." But Jordan was grinning, clearly pleased with whatever he'd gotten me. We exchanged gifts over coffee and homemade cinnamon rolls, Jordan's specialty. I'd gotten him a new mechanical keyboard he'd been eyeing for months, and a framed photo of us from our first official date. His eyes got suspiciously shiny when he saw the photo. "Your turn," he said. Handing me a small wrapped box. Inside was a key, not just any key, but an ornate vintage key on a leather cord. "It's symbolic," Jordan explained, his voice soft. "You already have the key to our apartment. But this is the key to my heart." Cheesy, I know, but it's true. You've unlocked parts of me I didn't know existed. You've made me braver, more honest, more myself, and I wanted you to have something that represents that. I was definitely crying now. "Jordan, There's more," he said, pulling out an envelope. "Open it." Inside was a printout of an email confirmation. It took me a moment to process what I was looking at, then my eyes widened. "Is this?" "A booking for a cabin in the mountains for New Year's," Jordan confirmed. "Just you and me. No interruptions, no responsibilities. A chance to start the new year together. What do you think?" I launched myself at him, wrapping my arms around his neck. "I think you're perfect and I love you so much." "Is that a yes?" "That's an enthusiastic yes." We spent Christmas Day in our pajamas, watching movies and cooking an elaborate meal that we ate by candlelight. It was simple and perfect and exactly what we both needed. New Year's Eve found us at the cabin Jordan had booked, a cozy A-frame nestled in the snowy mountains, complete with a fireplace and a view that stretched for miles. We'd spent the past 2 days hiking, cooking, and simply being together without the distractions of everyday life. As midnight approached, we stood on the cabin's deck, bundled in warm coats and watching the stars. "This year has been incredible," Jordan said, his arm around my waist. "A few months ago, I never could have imagined this." U.S. "I know what you mean," I said. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real." "That you're real? Very real," Jordan assured me, turning to face me. "And I'm very much in love with you." "I love you too," I said. "This year with you, it's been the best of my life." In the distance, we could hear the faint sounds of fireworks from a nearby town. Jordan checked his watch. 30 seconds to midnight. We counted down together, our voices blending in the cold night air. And when we reached 0, Jordan kissed me as fireworks exploded across the sky, painting the darkness in brilliant colors. "Happy New Year." "Alex," he whispered against my lips. "Happy New Year." "Jordan," we stood there wrapped in each other's arms. And I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The years of friendship, the months of hidden longing, the moment of courage in a steam-filled bathroom that had changed everything. "What are you thinking about?" Jordan asked. "About that night you walked in while I was showering," I admitted. "About how terrified I was and how hopeful. About how one moment of bravery led to all of this." Jordan smiled. "Best shower I ever interrupted." I laughed. "You know, we should probably tell people the real story eventually. The unedited version." "What, and ruin the mystique of our unconventional love story?" "It is pretty unconventional. It's perfect," Jordan corrected. "Just like us. Just like this. I'm standing there in the snow with the person I loved more than anything." I had to agree. Our story might not be conventional, but it was ours. Every awkward moment, every revelation, every risk taken had all led us here to this place. To this love. To this beginning months later as spring began to paint Seattle in shades of green and pink. Jordan and I fell into the comfortable rhythm of an established couple. We'd learned each other's patterns, our quirks, the little things that made each other happy. We'd weathered arguments and makeups, stressful work weeks, and lazy Sunday mornings. Jordan's parents had slowly come around, His mother eventually asked him to meet me over a video call. It was awkward at first, but she was trying, and that meant everything. His father remained more distant, but even he had sent a polite email acknowledging our relationship. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. One evening, as we sat on our balcony watching the sunset, Jordan turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Do you remember what you said that first night?" he asked. "When I told you how I felt." "I said a lot of things that night," I replied with a smile. "You said I was the person you thought about first thing in the morning and last thing before you fell asleep." His hand found mine. "That's still true for me. Every single day." "For me too," I said softly. "I know it's only been a few months," Jordan continued, "but I can't imagine my life without you in it. Not just as my boyfriend, but as my partner. My best friend. The person I want to build a future with." My heart swelled. "Jordan, I'm not proposing," he said quickly, though he was smiling. "Not yet, anyway. I just wanted you to know that when I think about the future, you're always there. Every plan I make, every dream I have, you're part of it." I cupped his face in my hands, looking into those hazel eyes that had become my favorite sight in the world. "You're my future too. You always have been, even before I was brave enough to admit it." We kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. And I thought about how far we'd come from that surprising moment in the bathroom. How a single instant of courage had transformed both of our lives. Sometimes, the best love stories aren't about dramatic gestures or love at first sight. Sometimes they're about the slow build, the deep friendship that transforms into something more. They're about two people who know each other's worst qualities and best dreams. Who've seen each other at 3 in the morning in old pajamas. Who've built a foundation of trust and respect before ever adding romance to the mix. Jordan was my best friend before he was my boyfriend, and that made all the difference. As we headed inside, Jordan pulled me close one more time. "Thank you," he said. "For what? For being brave enough to love me back? For taking this chance with me? For being exactly who you are?" "Jordan Matthews," I said, "loving you is the easiest thing I've ever done." And it was true. Despite the challenges, despite the adjustments, despite everything we'd had to figure out, loving Jordan was as natural as breathing, as necessary as air. We'd started as friends, became roommates, and somewhere along the way, we'd become soulmates. Our story might have begun with an unexpected interruption during a shower, but it had grown into something beautiful, something lasting, something that felt, in every possible way, like home.